Hello and welcome to a new edition of DTC3's State of the Art Show. I am so excited, as usual, to do this show today. We've got a young man with us that's been dubbed as the guitar amp guru to the stars. I dubbed him that, but you know that's important to know. Anyway, we're on location for the next 30 minutes at Shaw Audio with Mr. Kevin Shaw. Welcome.
Good to have you here, Rhonda.
It's good to be here. I'm so excited about meeting you in person and for our viewers at home to get to know a little bit about you and the work that you do, which is something that all of us enjoy with our ears, but we didn't know that you were the man behind the sound. But let's go back before you played guitar, before you built amps, and before playing guitar also, and let's go back to your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Thomasville, North Carolina, just a little small factory town. We were lower middle class. Probably from the time I was about 10 years old, was always interested in electronics.
Right.
And then by the time I was 14, I picked up my first guitar and played in local bands. And of course, we didn't have a ton of money to buy equipment, so we would find things that were broke and try to fix it, or try to modify what we had to get the sound that we wanted.
Right.
There's a term called chasing tone.
Yes.
That guitar players are always doing, and that started at an early age with me. And so I was always trying to sound like somebody else, and started modifying my own equipment to try to get that, making guitar pedals and modifying amps. And then the interest in electronics went hand in hand with the musician.
So you almost like the mechanical part of playing guitar as much as the musical part.
I think probably more so, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I never really developed into a great musician. I mean, it was always fun, and we had a good time in high school bands and so forth. But the gear always seemed to be maybe a bigger draw to me, and I was always involved in that part of the business. So I always liked being around the music business and the people that you meet. Always been involved in equipment, and it just kind of went hand in hand with doing amps.
It's a great energy to be around people who are in the arts. I mean, it's a creative energy that you don't get if you're working in another industry, perhaps, I guess, should speak. So you started playing at 14. Any early musical influences as far as like great guitar players or just bands that you liked at that time? Or
Well, probably grew up listening to a lot of the late 60s, early 70s bands, Deep Purple, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin. I mean, all of those were known for their guitar playing. Grew up in the South, so you had to know how to play Skynyrd.
Yes.
Charlie.
How many times have you played Sweet Home Alabama?
Exactly. Charlie Daniels, who lives right down the road. I mean, he was a big influence, growing up. So that kind of got me started. But I'm interested. I like all different types of music. Really, there's something to be appreciated in almost any style.
So I see too in your company, both your sons play guitar. One plays guitar, one plays bass.
Right.
So did you teach them, or how did they learn to play guitar?
I really didn't. At the time they were small, I really wasn't involved. I wasn't doing this business. I wasn't really playing. The music business can be a bitter pill to swallow.
Yes.
And I struggled a little bit with trying to push my children into a business that, it can take its toll on people.
Right.
And it was interesting, they both kind of found their way into music without me, trying to teach them, buying them stuff and telling them, hey, I want you to try this. And I really didn't teach them much at all. When they showed some interest in it, I actually took them and got them lessons from somebody who was better than me, and that way Dad wasn't trying to influence.
Well, we all
them.
know when you're in the arts. I used to teach voice students, and your children just do not want to learn from you.
Yeah, that's right.
They just don't. They need somebody outside, because otherwise it's just Dad telling them do this, and they just get mad at Dad, and you get mad at them, and then it's all over.
Exactly.
Were there any musicians in your home growing up, like your mom, your dad, your sisters? Did y'all sing in church or anything growing up?
No, not really. I'm kind of first generation musical in my family. My oldest sister is a really good piano player, formally trained and everything, but she was the only one in the house that did anything musically growing up. So we're kind of first generation, I guess, even trying our hand at music.
That's cool.
And I think my children have gotten much better than I am, so maybe we're passing it, up a generation.
Yes, that's very cool. So we're in your studio, so to speak. in your home, which is a wonderful place. It's kind of quaint here. I mean, this is where actual people come that work in the industry. Like I said, he's the guitar amp guru to the stars. Drop some names for us of some of the people that you work with. Not the guitar player, because we probably don't know their names, but the actual groups that you work with.
Well, most of the guys that I do work with or actually play for some of the stars. It's not. I don't see a lot of the headliners here.
Right.
It's usually the working musician who's touring with that guy out on the road, on the bus, playing night after night. Those are the clientele that we deal with mostly.
And how do they get your name? I mean, you're not in Nashville. You're a little bit outside of Nashville. And how do they find out about Shaw? I mean, obviously your name is on all your products, but like, how do they get in touch with you and how they find you? Like, is it just word of mouth kind of thing?
Word of mouth is huge, and it's huge in the music business. Guys always talk about gear and guitars and what they like, and if they see somebody who may be playing one of our amps, they'll inquire. But as far as the services we do, as far as repairs, tone consultations, custom pedal board work, that's all referral, where guys, they come and we try to treat them right, and then they'll tell their buddies who play or see somebody on the road and refer us, and the business has grown slowly but steadily from that. I mean, we have an internet presence, we're on all the social media, and we try to market a little bit, but the word of mouth is huge.
Well, I have got a nephew that's in Louisville, Kentucky. And I advertised for the show today that I was going to get to come and meet you in person and talk with you. And he is freaking out. He is so excited because he is a guitar player. He's in a band in Louisville. He's been there playing for several years. And anybody that knows guitars knows Shaw amps. I mean, obviously. The people that know what they're talking about when it comes to the sound, the tone, I know you speak of tone a lot. Of your equipment is what they're looking for. And it's kind of an old sound. What we're going to do in this next segment is we're going to see some of your work that you do, how you've incorporated the old tubes that a lot of people got rid of in the 80s and brought those back, and why everybody's still wanting those. So stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes. This is DTC3's State of the Art Show. I'm Rhonda Harpo, your host. I'm with Kevin Shaw, and we'll be right back.
There are so many great things about life in Tennessee, and DTC is proud to be one more. A local wireless provider with the same nationwide coverage as the big city guys, plus hometown service and support. We offer a great selection of phones and plan options to meet every need, from prepaid to super fast 4G LTE. Stop by one of our friendly offices, give us a call, or visit us online to learn more. DTC Wireless, your local wireless provider.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Yes, for a nicer day, huh?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Gonna get some big ones. Anybody want to wear a life jacket?
I'm good.
No life jacket? That's a deal breaker.
Daddy, you promised.
Daniel Stevens.
Yeah, give me one of those life jackets.
This message brought to you by the National Safe Boating Council and the women who nag you. Love you.
Jack Frost, you do have beautiful teeth.
My what?
Are they really as white as they say? Yes. Oh, they really do sparkle like freshly fallen snow. This is an excellent example of what teeth should look like. Check out the iridescence of that incisor, the beauty of that bicuspid, the magnificence of those molars. And the best way to achieve such terrific teeth is brushing. 2 minutes, twice a day. Not 30 seconds, not a minute 45. 2 minutes. That's all it takes. They're beautiful.
The first day stepping on the court, I couldn't keep up. That motivated me to step up my game. When I reach a goal, I set a new one the next day. And my next goal is to go to college. Mastering the court takes persistence. So does getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Welcome back to DTC3's State of the Art Show. We're with Kevin Shaw at Shaw Audio. And we're going to start looking at some of the ways that you affect the sound of what we hear as an audience member or a guitar person hears. in the studio or at a concert or whatever. Okay, some of the things that you use, and a lot of companies use these, but you use these components with some of the newer pieces also. So this is a tube that I thought was obsolete. I didn't even know they were around anymore. So talk to us a little bit about the tube and how that affects the sound.
Well, tubes have been around since probably the 20s, and don't quote my history on that, but they were very common in the 50s and 60s. Most all consumer products use tubes. If you bought a TV, a radio, a stereo, anything you can imagine used tubes. That was the technology of the day. And the tubes did what in the TV and the radio and stuff? The sound. Well, a tube is responsible for what the sound sounds like. A tube can be used for many different applications, but it's probably most popular use is an amplifying device, without getting real deep into the technical part of it. Okay. And then when the electric guitar started coming about in the 40s and 50s, and manufacturers started developing amplifiers to make your guitar louder, of course they used tubes because that was the device that was available. That was the most modern technology. And then as technology progressed into the 60s and even to today, the transistor came about, the integrated circuit came about, computer modeling is now popular, and they started building guitar amps using these other devices. Well, guitar players quickly realized they did not sound to their ears, they did not sound as pleasing as the ones built with tubes. And the sound was mainly, it was more of a distorted sound, or the tone, or just the quality? Distortion's a good thing with a guitar amp because most of what we hear has some distortion in it, and it was the characteristic of the distortion that is different between a solid state device and a tube. And the tube is much more pleasing. It's a softer, smoother distortion. There's less harshness in it, and the guys they noticed right away, man, I really don't like these solid state amps. So this is something you realized as a guitar player, and you thought, and you started tweaking it, or what? Well, how did you start doing that? when I started playing at 14, my first amp was a tube amp, but just because they were still plentiful and cheap, you could go to the pawn shop and buy one. It wasn't that I really knew the difference. I mean, I could barely play. So I gradually learned that after years of playing and trying some different things, and there's just a mystique about the tubes, and the way they sound and the way they feel to a player. It's not always what your ear hears; it's what the player feels as he digs in a little bit playing, and that amp kind of responds to him. It becomes more like the instrument. In fact, it is an instrument, and every much so as the guitar is. Yeah. The two work really close together. So they started noticing that there was a difference in the tube gear, and they began to collect the older gear, and then manufacturers started realizing, well, hey, we need to go back into production making tube stuff, which there's a lot of that today. And they're not making, I think you told me they're not making the tubes in the United States anymore. No, there's no tubes produced in the United States. I think that ended sometime probably in the 80s. And see, that's when I thought they totally just became obsolete. So this one comes from? This comes from, I believe, from Yugoslavia. And it's a large power tube. Tubes come in many different sizes. I think there's about 3 main manufacturers or main factories that produce tubes today. They're branded under a lot of different names. There's lots of tube companies, but they're all produced in just a few places. Okay, show us some of this. This is not a board. Tell us exactly what this is. It's not a board. What is this? Okay, this is, well, let me show you this piece first. Okay. This is a raw chassis stamped out of aluminum, punched and powder coated. This is one process that we don't do in-house on all of our amps. We still do some of our amps. We drill and bend and paint and everything, but this is one that we actually have manufactured by another company. So this is what we get to start building with. And then here's one that's about 80% finished. It does not have the transformers in it yet. And one of the things that is different about the way we do tube amps, there's lots of companies that produce tube amps, and a lot of companies make some really great products. But we do ours completely by hand, and it's what we refer to as true point-to-point construction. Okay, I want the folks at home to see this, how simple. I mean, it's intricate, but it's very simple. Kind of like if you've got an old floor radio, which I do at home, and you look behind it and you're like,
Wow.
Yes,
It's so simple. I mean, obviously you have to know what you're doing with this, but it's not filled. It's like all these simple wires. And explain what you were just getting ready to say.
Most modern amps are built with a process called printed circuit boards, and they'll actually be a large flat board with all the components very neatly placed, and all of the interconnections between the components are done with small copper traces. And it's easily mass produced. There's a lot of amps made, in China and India and, other countries.
Right.
But even that type of construction has never really been a good type of construction for tubes.
Tell me why they come
reasons.
to you as opposed to going to get the China one.
One of the biggest things, this old type construction does a couple of things. It produces a very clean signal path because we use very little wire. Most of the components go exactly where they need to go, and there's not a lot of extra wire. There's a lot less solder connections in one of these amps, and it just makes for a really responsive, clean signal path in the amp. And also the reliability is unbelievable in this type construction. One of the big things we do here at Shaw Audio is amp repairs. So I get to see what breaks in amps every day. And we try to incorporate that into our construction to build a product that the musician can take out on the road. The roadies can toss it on the truck and drop it on the stage, and it's going to hold up pretty well for them.
Because if it doesn't, they're in trouble.
Right. Well, and exactly. They're in trouble, and my name looks bad too. So
okay,
we
drop
don't like
some names.
that.
You didn't drop any names earlier, I don't think. Give me some names before we go to our next break.
Well,
some of the people you work with. I saw you worked with Ricky Skaggs. I see you work with the guy from Florida Georgia Line.
Right.
One of the guitar players there.
Yeah, like I said, most of the guys, we have started working with Ricky Skaggs recently. Ricky is a tone chaser for sure, and he is a phenomenal electric guitar player. Even though most people see him with a mandolin or an acoustic guitar, he's a phenomenal electric guitar player, and he's really kind of going through a tone chasing season where he's looking for some stuff, and a super guy.
What about RFD? I know your products are being seen on RFD for the new Daly and Vincent show.
Right, they're using some of our bass and guitar products for the Daly and Vincent show. And again, we have many customers who are playing for the bigger name people that you wouldn't know the guitar player if I said the name, but
can you see how humble this man is? Really, I mean, he just doesn't want to name drop. Okay, so we got to go to a break.
Okay.
We're going to come back and we're going to hear somebody play guitar through your amp, either you or a friend.
Okay.
And see the difference for the Shaw sound.
Okay.
This is DTC3 State of the Art Show. We'll be right back with Shaw Audio.
Look around, and you'll see a common theme throughout each of our lives. Technology, and it's becoming more important to how we live each day. And DTC Broadband is with you every step of the way. From the music that you listen to the way our children learn. We take a lot of pride in empowering what you do, so that the future for us all is as bright as ever. DTC Broadband. Call today and get connected.
Are you getting this, honey?
Oh, prime time. We are rolling.
All right, Mama's gonna bring it home. Mama's gonna bring it home. Okay.
Come on, watch this guy.
Oh, backwards!
Oh, don't. Okay.
It went into Bob and Carol's yard. Oh, no? Okay, here it comes.
Oh, no!
Challenge your kids to be active and eat healthy.
All right, let's see what you can do. Let's go.
They might surprise you.
Let's go.
Search We Can for more ideas on how you and your kids can get healthy together.
When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, both of my daughters were pregnant, and everything I was looking forward to turned into everything I was going to miss. First words, first steps, being there for my grandchildren, for my daughters. Today, those babies are 3. I'm with them all the time. I don't know what's next, but I know I'm here today. My name is Alanthea Pena, and I'm Susan G. Komen.
Help save lives.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
Welcome back to DTC3 State of the Art Show. In this last segment, we are still visiting with Kevin Shaw of Shaw Audio. And like I said earlier, he is the guitar amp guru to the stars here in Tennessee and outside the country. Actually, I've seen that he's helped some people from Australia and various places. So he's actually the guru to a lot of people when it comes to guitar amps. But what we're going to find out now is a lot of things that I don't really know about amps, but if you're a guitar player, you will. And we have brought a special guest, Mr. Nick Noakes, that works for DTC, and he plays guitar professionally and for entertainment himself and his family and all, and at church. But he's going to ask some questions of Kevin about an amp he might be interested in purchasing or whatever. Things that I would never know to think of. So, and then he's going to also play some and give us a little sample of how Shaw Audio sounds so much better and so much different than everybody else. All right, go Nick.
All right, well thanks Kevin for letting us stop by first and foremost today. We've really enjoyed it so far, and I know all of us tone hounds out there are interested in kind of what makes your amps different, and so thought the best way to do that is break out a guitar and listen to one. So tell us a little bit about the amp that we've got in front of us today.
Well, this particular amp is it's our least expensive model. It's called the Tone Rod MG, and it's an 8-watt single-ended amp. It has 2 power tubes paralleled and 1 preamp tube. Fairly simple controls. Most of our stuff is fairly simple, but it has a 2-position tight switch, a volume control, a tone control, and then a master volume control. And this particular amp is geared towards the guy who's playing small venues but wants to have a sort of a loud sounding rock tone, something that's fairly aggressive. It's very touch sensitive. It's also proven to be a great recording amp. I have a lot of guys that do a lot of tracking work have been real pleased with this particular model. But like I said earlier, it's great for blues and rock. It will clean up, but it really shines as you begin to push the amp to get that tone that sounds like a stage full of amps, but it's at a volume that the club owner's not going to kick you out for.
Yeah, tossed on the street because you're so loud. Right?
And it's actually what we use at our church. It works out great in the church environment too, because again, you're always concerned about the volume levels on stage.
Great. One thing I've noticed too is it's a pretty simple control layout. I mean, it's amazing how many different kinds of tones that you can get out of one of your amps with just a few switches and 3 knobs in this particular model. It's amazing.
That's right. That's right. We try to keep things as simple as possible, and let the tone shine through.
Yeah. Well, let me play a little bit here. I've got a Gibson Les Paul, and I've got some humbuckers in here, of course, and I've got my volume set to about 2 or 3, and I guess this is going to kind of show some of the dynamics of the amp, the touch sensitivity, the way it cleans up when you turn your guitar down, and when you turn the guitar up, the tone and the crunch arrives with it. So. So that's on 3. I'm not going to adjust anything. Now I'm going to max the volume on the guitar. Haven't touched the amp at all. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
That's amazing.
I love it.
So can I write you up for one of those?
Sure. Just send the bill to DTC Communications.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll go for that.
Sure.
Wow.
Business expense.
It's exactly a legitimate business expense. So man, that sounds incredible. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, how many watts is this?
It's 8 watts.
And something behind the scenes that we did before we started is Kevin put an attenuator on the back of this amp to actually knock it down, 12
dB.
12 decibels. So this amp is so much louder, really. if you need it to be, than what we've got it right now. Tell us also about the speaker cabinet that we have here. Did you make this? Or is
yes,
this...
we build all of our cabinets here at the shop, as well as the head shelves for the amp. That's a 1x12 speaker cabinet, so it has one 12-inch speaker in it. The speakers that we use are made by a company in Paducah, Kentucky called Warehouse Guitar Speakers. We're real big here about trying to do as much stuff made in USA as possible. All of the major components of our amps, our transformers, our chassis work, our cabinetry, the speakers, all of that stuff, comes from right here in the United States. There are products that we have to buy outside of the United States, like we mentioned earlier, the tubes. But we try to use as many boutique and USA businesses as possible here.
Okay, well that makes sense. And also it's kind of neat to see the craftsmanship. I know it may not be picking up on the camera exactly without being really, really close, but these are not overseas made quality speaker cabinets. I mean, the joints on them on the inside and everything, the Tolex work, everything is incredibly high quality. So I don't think anyone could go wrong from that aspect. In fact, in this day and age, we're really not used to seeing quality like that.
I mean, you can tell this is like handmade,
yes.
not a factory manufactured. Exactly. It's very
each
individual.
one's made one at a time. I assume by you, right?
They are.
So what makes this amp different from some of the other amps in your lineup as far as features go?
Well, the biggest difference that I mentioned earlier is this is what we call a single-ended amp, and I'll try to explain this without putting everybody to sleep. But most amps, especially larger power amps, use two or four tubes in the output section, and one tube will amplify half of the sine wave, and one will amplify the other half. In this particular amp, the power tube amplifies the entire wave, and what happens, it has different harmonic content when you overdrive it.
Okay.
And generally, this type of amp is usually more for a smaller wattage amp, but they have a very different tone.
So it's really just what kind of tone you want.
Exactly.
Basically.
What kind of tone do you want? How much power do you need? What kind of features are you looking for? And that's kind of we've got different models for different players' needs.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate you letting us stop by today and take a test drive, so to speak. And we'll take one of each of them. Just go ahead and load them.
Okay, we'll write you up.
Thank you, Nick, for playing for us.
Sure,
I hope
no
you all
problem.
can hear that quality at home. It's amazing. It really is amazing. Kevin, thank you for letting us come in. I know you're a busy man. I know you have a lot of people that come here to your shop. Do you want to give out any contact information at all?
Best place to find us would be at www.shawaudio.com.
They need an appointment, right?
We
just show
are
up.
mostly appointment only.
Right.
Phone number on the website. You can reach me almost any time. We're also on Facebook as Shaw Audio and as Kevin Shaw, and we're on Instagram as Shaw Audio. So we're pretty easy to find.
Good. Well, thank you again. Fabulous work, fabulous sound. I know you all have enjoyed this show as much as I've enjoyed doing it today and meeting Kevin and hearing his beautiful amps. Thank you again for watching DTC3 State of the Art Show. And until the next time we see you, get out and support the arts.